I heard every word she said about me. Furniture. Invisible. Taking up space. She never knew I was standing right there in the hallway, holding the dinner I brought home early to surprise her. But here's what my wife of 26 years didn't know. I've been planning my exit for 3 years. And the $1.2 million she thought didn't exist, it was already gone, along with me. My name is Daniel Rivers. I'm 50 years old, and I've spent the last 28 years working as a financial auditor for a Fortune 500 corporation. Not glamorous work, but steady, reliable, the kind of career that built a comfortable life for my family, even if my wife Jennifer never really understood what I did. She never asked, and after a while, I stopped trying to explain. It was a Tuesday evening in late September when everything changed. I'd driven home from the office, exhausted from reviewing acquisition reports all day. The house was quiet when I walked in through the garage door. I heard Jennifer's voice coming from the living room, bright and animated in a way she never sounded when talking to me anymore. I moved down the hallway, keys still in my hand, planning to let her know I was home. That's when I heard it. Honestly, Dana, he's like furniture at this point, Jennifer said, her voice carrying that fake cheerfulness she used with her friends. You know those old recliners people keep in the basement? That's Daniel. Just there, taking up space. I stopped moving. My hand tightened around my keys. Dana's laugh crackled through the speakerphone. At least he brings home a paycheck, right? Barely, Jennifer replied. I mean, he works in some boring auditing job. Numbers and spreadsheets. I stopped listening to him talk about it years ago. God, can you imagine? 28 years of listening to someone drone on about financial compliance. The keys bit into my palm. I stood there in the hallway, 3 feet from the living room entrance, and listened as my wife dismantled our marriage with casual indifference. He never wants to do anything exciting, Jennifer continued. Last week I suggested we go to that new wine bar downtown, and he said he was too tired. Too tired. Like he's some executive working 80-hour weeks. Please. I heard her say it. She never knew I was standing right there. And in that moment, something inside me made a decision that would change everything. I didn't walk into the living room. I didn't announce my presence or demand an explanation. I simply turned around, walked back through the garage, got in my car and drove. I left. And I knew, even then, that I would never turn back. I drove for 2 hours that night, heading west on Route 66 with no destination in mind. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. The radio stayed off. I needed silence to think, to process what I'd heard. Jennifer thought I was furniture. Boring. Forgettable. Taking up space. What she didn't know could fill volumes. For the past 15 years, I've been quietly building something she knew nothing about. My position as a senior financial auditor at Hammond Industries paid well, very well, but Jennifer had never bothered to ask about the specifics. She knew I worked in finance, knew I left for the office at 7:30 every morning and came home around 6. Beyond that, she checked out years ago. What she didn't know was that my annual salary had grown to $240,000. She didn't know about the bonuses, sometimes reaching 6 figures, that I'd been directing into separate accounts since our oldest son, William, was in elementary school. She didn't know about the investment portfolio I'd carefully built, now worth just over $1.2 million. Jennifer thought we lived on $70,000 a year because that's what I told her we made. She never questioned it, never asked to see tax returns or bank statements. She was too busy spending her salary from the marketing firm on designer clothes and weekend trips with her friends. I pulled into a rest stop somewhere past Manassas and sat in the dark parking lot, engine idling. My phone buzzed. Jennifer. I watched it ring, then go to voicemail. It buzzed again immediately. Another call, then a text. Where are you? Dinner's ready. I stared at the message for a long moment, then turned the phone off completely. The thing about being invisible is that people forget you're watching. They forget you're listening. They underestimate what you're capable of planning when they dismiss you as harmless. I've been planning this for 3 years. Not consciously at first. It started small, opening a separate checking account that only I could access, then a safety deposit box at a bank across town, getting a P.O. box for statements Jennifer would never see. Small steps that built into something bigger. The final piece fell into place 6 months ago when I consulted with Howard, an old friend from college who'd become a divorce attorney. We had lunch, discussed hypotheticals, talked about asset protection and legal separation procedures. Howard gave me a blueprint. If you ever need it, he'd said, sliding a folder across the table. Everything's in here. Pre-drafted documents, account transfer protocols, even a recommended financial advisor who specializes in post-divorce wealth management. I'd thanked him, put the folder in my car, and driven home to a wife who barely looked up from her phone when I walked through the door. Now, sitting in that rest stop, I opened my glove compartment and pulled out Howard's folder. The papers were crisp, organized, waiting. I made a decision. By morning, I'd be someone else entirely. Someone who wasn't furniture. Someone who wasn't taking up space. Someone who was finally done being invisible. I spent the night in my car at that rest stop, dozing in the driver's seat with my jacket rolled up as a pillow. Not comfortable, but I'd slept in worse conditions during my years in the Army Reserve back in my 20s. By 5 a.m., I was awake, watching the sun creep over the Virginia hills. My phone stayed off. I knew what would be waiting when I turned it on. Missed calls, frantic texts. Maybe Jennifer had even called the police by now, reported me missing. The thought made me smile grimly. At 6, I drove to a diner off the highway. The place smelled like coffee and bacon grease. An older waitress with tired eyes brought me a menu. Just coffee and eggs, I told her. Scrambled. And wheat toast. While I waited, I finally powered on my phone. It exploded with notifications. 43 missed calls. 27 text messages. 3 voicemails. I listened to the first voicemail. Daniel, where the hell are you? Jennifer's voice was sharp with irritation, not concern. You just disappeared. William's asking questions. Call me back. The second message was different. Dad. William's voice sounded uncertain. Mom's freaking out. She says you didn't come home last night. Are you okay? Just let me know you're alive. I closed my eyes. William, my oldest son, 22 years old and about to graduate from Virginia Tech. He'd always been closest to me. Madison was Jennifer's daughter through and through, 18 and already developing her mother's cutting tongue. Jack, at 15, was still figuring out who he was. I texted William back. I'm fine. Taking some time to think. Don't worry about me. His response came within seconds. What happened? I stared at that question for a long moment, then typed. I'll explain soon. Trust me. The waitress brought my food. I ate slowly, methodically, thinking through my next moves. First, I needed to execute the account transfers. Howard's documents were clear. Everything was already legally separated thanks to paperwork Jennifer had signed years ago without reading. She thought she was signing refinancing documents. She'd actually been signing financial separation agreements. After breakfast, I drove to the bank where I kept my primary separate account. It was a small branch in Leesburg, far from our home in Alexandria. The manager, Patricia, knew me well. I'd been banking there for 8 years. Mr. Rivers, Patricia greeted me warmly. What brings you in so early? I need to execute some transfers, I said, handing her the documents from Howard's folder. These accounts need to be moved to new institutions. Today, Patricia's professional smile faltered slightly as she scanned the papers. This is quite a bit of money, Mr. Rivers. Are you sure about this? Completely sure, I replied calmly. She nodded and got to work. 2 hours later, $1.2 million had been distributed across 3 different banks and 2 investment firms, all under my name only, all completely legal. I walked out of that bank feeling lighter than I had in years. Jennifer thought I was furniture. She was about to learn that furniture can walk away. Jennifer called at 2 in the afternoon. I was sitting in a coffee shop in Leesburg, reviewing documents on my laptop. I let it ring twice before answering. Where are you? She demanded. No hello. No concern. Just irritation. Does it matter? I asked calmly. Does it matter? Daniel, you disappeared for almost 24 hours. You scared the kids. I scared William. I corrected. Madison hasn't texted once, and Jack probably didn't notice I was gone. Silence. Then, what's that supposed to mean? It means exactly what it sounds like, Jennifer. When was the last time Madison had an actual conversation with me? When was the last time Jack asked me about anything other than money? Oh, don't start with this. Jennifer snapped. You're being dramatic. Am I? I kept my voice level, steady. Tell me, what do I do for a living? What? My job. What's my title? What company do I work for? How much do I make? Jennifer hesitated. You work in auditing. Some corporation. I don't know, Daniel. Why does it matter? Because we've been married for 26 years, and you can't answer a basic question about how I spend 40 hours of my week, I said. That's why it matters. This is ridiculous, Jennifer said, her voice rising. Are you having some kind of midlife crisis? Is this about that conversation you overheard yesterday? So she'd figured it out. Yes, I said simply. It's about that conversation. The one where you compared me to old furniture in the basement. Where you dismissed 26 years of marriage like it was nothing. Daniel, I was venting to Dana. Friends talk. It didn't mean anything. It meant everything, I replied. Because it was true. That's how you see me. How you've seen me for years. And I'm done with it. Done with what? Jennifer's voice sharpened with something that might have been fear. What are you saying? I'm saying I filed for legal separation, I told her. Papers will be delivered to you tomorrow. I've already moved all of my assets into protected accounts. The house is paid off, so you can keep living there. But we're done, Jennifer. The line went quiet. I could hear her breathing. You can't do this, she finally said. I already have. We'll fight this in court. I'll get a lawyer. You can't just take everything and leave. I'm not taking anything that wasn't already mine, I said. Every account I moved was opened and funded solely by me. You'll find that all the paperwork is perfectly legal. Your name isn't on any of it. Remember all those documents you signed without reading? The ones I told you were for refinancing. Another silence. You planned this, Jennifer whispered. For 3 years, I confirmed. You were so busy dismissing me, you never noticed. The kids will hate you for this. William already knows. He understands. As for Madison and Jack, they'll figure it out eventually. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were steady as I set the phone down. No shaking. No regret. Just clarity. 3 days after I left, I met William at a restaurant in Charlottesville, halfway between his campus and where I was staying. I'd rented a small furnished apartment in Harrisonburg, a college town where nobody knew me. Clean slate. Fresh start. William walked in looking tired. He slid into the booth across from me and ordered coffee before saying anything. Madison's furious, he said finally. She called me yesterday. Said you abandoned the family. Said Mom's devastated and you're being selfish. And what do you think? I asked. William took a long sip of his coffee. I think Madison's 18 and she's been Mom's mini-me since she was 12. She doesn't see what I see, which is that Mom treated you like garbage for years, William said bluntly. Dad, I'm not blind. I watched her dismiss everything you said. I watched her mock your interests. That time you want to go to that Civil War battlefield for your birthday? She laughed and said only boring people care about dead history. I remembered. That had been 3 years ago. I dropped the subject and spent my birthday reviewing audit reports at the office. Jack's confused, William continued. He's 15. He doesn't understand why you left, but he's also not close enough to either of you to have a strong opinion. He's just upset the house is tense. And you? I asked. William met my eyes. I'm glad you finally left. I was wondering how long you put up with it. Something in my chest loosened. Having my oldest son's support meant everything. Your mother says I'm taking everything and leaving her with nothing, I said. Are you? The house is paid off. It's in her name. Both cars are hers. She has her income from the marketing firm. I took what was always mine, William. Money I earned and saved separately. Money she never knew existed because she never bothered to ask. William nodded slowly. How much are we talking about? Enough that your college is fully funded. Enough that Madison's remaining 3 years are covered. Enough that Jack's future education is secure. None of you need to worry about that. Does Mom know? Not yet. She thinks I cleaned out her joint accounts. She doesn't realize those accounts only ever had household money. The real assets were always separate. William almost smiled. She's going to lose her mind when she finds out. Probably, I agreed. But that's not your problem. I need you to know something, William. This isn't about punishing your mother. This is about refusing to live the rest of my life as furniture. As something people talk around and ignore. I get it, Dad, William said quietly. And for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. We talked for another hour. About his finals coming up. About his plans after graduation. About the job offers he was considering. Normal father-son conversation that felt precious because it was unforced, uninterrupted by Jennifer's commentary or Madison's eye rolls. When we stood to leave, William hugged me hard. Don't let Mom guilt you into coming back, he said. You deserve better than what she gave you. I watched him walk to his car, This young man I'd raised to be honest and observant. At least I'd done something right. I drove to my brother Samuel's cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains 4 days after leaving Jennifer. Samuel and I hadn't spoken much in recent years. Jennifer had never liked him, called him that recluse who lives in the woods like some kind of hermit. Eventually, I'd stopped making the effort to visit. Samuel was waiting on his porch when I pulled up the gravel driveway. At 54, he looked healthier than me, lean and weathered from outdoor work. He ran a small woodworking business from his property, making custom furniture that sold for thousands to city people who wanted authentic rustic pieces. "Took you long enough," Samuel said by way of greeting. I climbed the porch steps. "You knew that you'd eventually leave her?" "Yeah, I knew. Figured it would happen around now. You're 50. That's when most men wake up and realize they've wasted half their lives." Samuel handed me a beer. "Come on, let's talk." We sat in wooden chairs Samuel had made himself, looking out over the mountains. The silence was comfortable. Samuel had never been much for small talk. "Jennifer called me yesterday," Samuel said finally. "Said you'd stolen money and abandoned the family. Said you were having a breakdown. And you believed her?" "Hell no," Samuel snorted. "I told her you were probably the sanest you'd been in 20 years. She didn't like that much." I took a long drink of beer. "She poisoned my relationship with you. I should have seen it earlier." "She tried," Samuel corrected. "I just stopped coming around because being near her was exhausting. That woman could drain the life out of a room just by walking into it." "The kids," I said. "William understands. Madison's on Jennifer's side. Jack's caught in the middle." Samuel nodded. "Madison's too much like her mother. Jack will figure things out eventually. He's young. Give him time." "I took my money and left," I said. "About $1.2 million. Jennifer thought we had maybe $100,000 in savings." Samuel whistled low. "You've been holding out." "I've been protecting myself," I said. "My salary was always higher than she knew. I kept it separate. Build investments." She never asked questions because she was too busy spending her income on things that didn't matter. "Smart man," Samuel said. "Most guys would have just stuck it out, let themselves get walked on until they died of stress at 65. I thought about it, I admitted. But then I overheard her talking to her friend, comparing me to furniture, saying I was boring and invisible. That's what did it." Samuel asked. "That's what made me stop pretending it would get better." Samuel stood and walked to the porch railing, looking out at the darkening sky. "You know what your problem was, Daniel? You thought if you worked hard enough, provided enough, she'd eventually respect you. But respect doesn't come from provision. It comes from how you carry yourself. You let her walk on you for years because you thought that's what good husbands do. They sacrifice, they endure, and they don't." I asked. "They do," Samuel said. "But there's a difference between sacrifice and self-destruction. You were destroying yourself piece by piece, trying to make a woman happy who decided a long time ago that happiness meant having someone to look down on." His words hit hard because they were true. "What now?" Samuel asked. "Now I figure out who I am without her," I said. Samuel smiled. "Good answer. You can stay here as long as you need. I've got a spare room. It's not fancy, but it's quiet." "I appreciate that," I said. We sat in silence as the stars came out, two brothers reconnecting after years of manufactured distance. 2 weeks after I left, William called with an update I hadn't expected. "Dad, you need to know what's happening at home," he said, his voice tense. "Mom's falling apart." I was at Samuel's cabin, helping him sand a custom dining table for a client. I set down the sandpaper and walked outside for privacy. "What do you mean falling apart?" I asked. "She tried to pay for groceries yesterday, and her card got declined," William said. "She called the bank, and they told her the joint account only has about $2,000 left. She completely lost it in the store. Madison had to drive her home. The joint account was always just for household expenses," I said calmly. "There's enough there for another month, if she's careful. After that, she'll need to use her own income." "That's the thing, Dad. She's been spending like nothing changed. New clothes, spa appointments, dinners out with her friends. She burned through most of what was left in 10 days. I wasn't surprised. Jennifer had never understood budgeting. She'd always assumed money just appeared when she needed it. She keeps calling you," William continued, "like 50 times a day. She's telling everyone you stole everything and left her destitute. Her friends are starting to ask questions." "Let them ask," I said. "The truth is simple. She has a paid-off house, 2 cars, and a $60,000 a year job. She's not destitute. She's just not living like she makes twice that anymore. William was quiet for a moment. She's also saying things about you. To Madison and Jack. Saying you were probably having an affair. That you've been planning to leave them all along. My jaw tightened. And do they believe her? Madison does. She's been posting cryptic things on social media about betrayal and fake people. Jack doesn't know what to think. He's been really quiet lately. What about you? I asked. I told Madison she's being manipulated. William said flatly. She didn't appreciate that. We're not really talking right now. That hurt. I hated that my children were being divided by this. There's something else, William said. Mom contacted a lawyer. She's planning to file for divorce and go after everything. She thinks you have some massive hidden fortune. She can try, I said. But every dollar I have is legally mine. She'll figure that out soon enough. The lawyer's going to cost her, Dad. She doesn't have money for a long court battle. Then she should accept a fair settlement, I replied. I'm not trying to leave her with nothing, William. The house is hers. The cars are hers. I'll even continue paying the property taxes for a year to give her time to adjust. But I'm not coming back, and I'm not giving her money that she has no legal claim to. William sighed. She's going to make this ugly, isn't she? Probably, I admitted. But that's her choice, not mine. After we hung up, I sat on Samuel's porch and watched the sun set over the mountains. I felt bad for my kids, especially Jack, who was caught in the middle of something he didn't understand. But I didn't feel bad for Jennifer. She'd spent years treating me like I was invisible. Now she was learning what actual absence looked like. 3 weeks after leaving, I met with Howard, my attorney friend, in his office in Richmond. He'd reviewed all my documentation and had news. Jennifer's lawyer contacted me, Howard said, sliding a folder across his desk. She's demanding 50% of all marital assets, full spousal support, and wants you to cover her legal fees. And I asked calmly, and she's going to be very disappointed. Howard smiled slightly. Every account you moved was legally separate property. She signed documentation years ago acknowledging the financial separation. Her name isn't on any of it. What about spousal support? Virginia law considers length of marriage, income disparity, and standard of living, Howard explained. You were married 26 years, which normally would support an alimony claim. However, she has her own income of $60,000 annually, the house is paid off, and you can demonstrate that the standard of living she thinks she's entitled to is funded entirely by your separate income, not marital assets. So what are we looking at? I asked. I'd recommend offering temporary support, maybe $2,000 a month for 2 years. That gives her time to adjust her lifestyle. Beyond that, she's on her own. And the house. It's in both names, but you've been paying all expenses from your separate accounts. I'd suggest signing your half over to her in exchange for her dropping any claim to your other assets. Clean break. What about the kids' college funds? Those are separate trusts you established. She has no claim to them. Howard leaned back in his chair. Daniel, this is as clean as divorces get. You did everything right. The only question is whether Jennifer's going to accept reality or drag this out until she can't afford her lawyer anymore. She'll drag it out, I predicted. She thinks I'm bluffing, that I'll eventually cave and come back. Will you? Howard asked. Not a chance, I said firmly. Howard nodded approvingly. Good. Then we proceed with the filing. I'll have papers drawn up by end of week. Fair settlement offer included. If she rejects it and wants to fight, that's her choice. But she's going to lose, and it's going to cost her. I left Howard's office feeling a weight lift. The legal side was handled. Whatever Jennifer threw at me, I was prepared. That evening, I called Jack. He answered on the third ring, his voice cautious. Hey, Dad, he said quietly. Hey, buddy. How are you holding up? I asked. I don't know, Jack admitted. Mom says you left us. William says you left Mom. I don't know who to believe. My heart ached. Jack, I didn't leave you. I left a marriage that wasn't working anymore. You're my son. That doesn't change no matter what happens between your mother and me. But why didn't you try to fix it? Jack asked. Why just leave? Because sometimes things are broken beyond fixing, I said carefully. And staying in something that's hurting you doesn't make you strong. It just makes you stuck. Jack was quiet for a long moment. Are you coming back? No, buddy. I'm not. But I'm still your dad. That part doesn't change. Okay, Jack said softly. Then, I miss you. I miss you too, I said. And when you're ready, I'd love to see you. We could grab dinner, go to a movie, whatever you want. Maybe, Jack said. I need to think about things. Take all the time you need, I told him. I'm not going anywhere. After we hung up, I sat in the growing darkness, hoping my youngest son would eventually understand. Time would tell. 8 weeks after I left, Jennifer's lawyer finally accepted reality. Howard called me with the news while I was helping Samuel finish the custom dining table. She's agreed to settle, Howard said. Took her lawyer 3 weeks to convince her, but she finally realized she wasn't going to get what she wanted. What changed her mind? I asked. Her legal bills hit $15,000, and her lawyer told her it would be another $30,000 minimum to go to trial. A trial she would lose, Howard explained. She couldn't afford to keep fighting. The settlement was almost exactly what I'd offered initially. Jennifer kept the house, both cars, and received $1,800 monthly for 2 years. I kept all my separate accounts and investments. The divorce would be final in 90 days. How did she take it? I asked. Not well, Howard said. But her options were accept this or end up with nothing except massive legal debt. She made the smart choice, even if it killed her to do it. 2 days later, I met William at a coffee shop near his campus. He was graduating in 3 weeks, and we needed to discuss his plans. Mom signed the papers, William said, stirring his coffee absently. She's been crying for 2 days, but she signed them. I'm sorry you have to see her like that, I said. Don't be, William replied. She brought this on herself. Dad, she spent the last 8 weeks telling everyone you were a monster. Now people are asking questions she can't answer. Like why you left for the house. Why you're still paying for our college. Why you offered her support when you didn't have to. What's she saying? I asked. That you're manipulating everyone. That the money you kept was supposed to be for the family. That you're selfish. William shook his head. But people aren't buying it anymore. Her own friends are starting to back away. And Madison? I asked. Madison's still convinced you're the villain, William said. But she's 18 and thinks she knows everything. She'll figure it out eventually. Maybe. And Jack. William's expression softened. Jack asked if he could come visit you next weekend. Mom doesn't know yet. He's afraid to tell her. My chest tightened. He wants to see me. He's been thinking a lot, William said. He asked me some hard questions about Mom. About how she treated you. I told him the truth. I think he's starting to understand. That meant more than the settlement. More than the money. More than any of it. What about you? I asked William. You graduate in 3 weeks. Job offers. William smiled. I got the position with that consulting firm in Charlotte. Good salary, benefits. I'll be 4 hours away from Mom, which honestly sounds perfect right now. And your relationship with her? I asked. Strained, William admitted. She keeps trying to make me choose sides. I keep telling her there are no sides, just reality. She doesn't like that answer. We talked about his graduation, about his plans to get an apartment in Charlotte, about his future. Normal father-son conversation that felt precious because it was real, not performed for Jennifer's benefit. When we parted, William hugged me tightly. You did the right thing, Dad, he said. I hope you know that. I'm starting to, I replied. 10 months after I left Jennifer, I stood on Samuel's porch watching the sun rise over the Blue Ridge Mountains. The divorce had been final for 7 months. The dust had settled. Life had found a new rhythm. I'd bought a small house in Harrisonburg, 20 minutes from Samuel's cabin. Nothing fancy, just 3 bedrooms and a decent workshop in the garage where I'd started woodworking alongside my brother. Turned out, I had a knack for it. Something Jennifer had never known because she'd never asked about my interests. My job at Hammond Industries continued remotely. They'd been surprisingly accommodating when I explained I needed to relocate. My performance hadn't suffered, so they saw no reason to object. William had graduated and was thriving in Charlotte. He visited once a month, and we developed an adult relationship built on honesty and mutual respect. Jack had started spending weekends with me every other week. It had taken him 3 months to fully understand what had happened, but once he did, our relationship had strengthened. He was 16 now, more thoughtful and observant than I'd given him credit for. Madison still wasn't speaking to me. She made her choice, and I'd accepted it. Maybe one day she'd see things differently. Maybe she wouldn't. I couldn't control that. Jennifer had moved on in her own way. She'd sold the house after a year, downsized to a condo, and was dating someone from her office. I heard about it through William and felt nothing. No jealousy, no regret. Just indifference. The doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. Jack stood there with his backpack, ready for our weekend together. "Hey, Dad," he said, smiling. "Samuel said something about teaching me to make a bookshelf this weekend. If you're interested," I replied, pulling him into a hug. "Definitely," Jack said. "Way better than sitting around listening to Mom complain about her new boyfriend." We spent the day in Samuel's workshop, 3 generations of Rivers men working with wood and talking about life. Samuel told stories about our grandfather, who'd been a carpenter. Jack listened intently, asking questions, engaging in a way he never had when Jennifer was controlling the conversation. That evening, sitting on the porch with Samuel and Jack, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Contentment. The sense that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. "You thinking about what you left behind?" Samuel asked, reading my expression. "No," I said honestly. "I'm thinking about what I found." Jack looked up at me. "You happy, Dad?" I considered the question. Happy felt too simple for what I felt. I was free. I was respected. I was building relationships based on honesty instead of obligation. I was learning who I was without someone telling me I wasn't enough. "Yeah, buddy," I said finally. "I'm happy." And for the first time in 26 years, I meant it.